All right. Welcome to the Moat, where we
Hey
talk
everyone.
real businesses, real stakes, and real business issues that are going on in today. I'm your host, Sam Robinson,
And I'm Kyle Harbaugh.
and we're here to create a moat and help you understand what's going on in the business world today, but also how to keep your moat that where businesses can't copy, take, or kill you. So let's get started.
I'm super excited to get into these stories, but we're not here to just simply report on the news. We're here to break down these stories and help you see the leadership principles, the business strategies behind each one so that you can apply them to your own business. All right, so Sam, let's build another layer of the moat.
Wonderful. All right.
So, Sam, our first story is half of lawyers now call AI a threat. So, the percentage of lawyers calling AI a major threat to the unauthorized practice of law has jumped to 50% in 2026, up from 36% of lawyers surveyed in 2025. More professionals than ever believe that AI will materially affect jobs, billing, revenue, and even the need for legal or tax professional services. So, Sam, what do you think about this one?
I'm not a lawyer, so that's my first disclaimer. So go ahead and put an asterisk next to my name. But here's the reality. Professional services around the board, people are using AI instead of financial advisors, lawyers, and anything else. So I had 2 or 3 years of experience just coming out of college. I've passed my bar exam. I've passed my XYZ exams, and I've now got some general information on like how to get things done. That's the level that people are asking questions at right now. That's
Mm,
not a level of specialization that you're in, meaning that the information and how you're giving the advice is going to automatically change. That said, there's some really real foundational pieces that are not going to change, like the relationship. The relationship's not going to change. Communication has always been the like basically like the dagger in a business that your customers planning. And I actually just saw a post from a lawyer last week saying, hey, we did great work, but we didn't communicate with the client, and they didn't like us. Like, they left a bad review because we just didn't communicate enough. And the reality is you have to do the fundamentals correctly, and people are going to use that if they feel like they can get a faster answer or a better answer for what they're wanting. And so I've seen oftentimes, like, for instance, on a financial advisor, someone came up with their own financial plan using ChatGPT of how to do it, and then passed it to the financial advisor and said, hey, can you make updates to this? And it's like, no. So because it's not part of the process. It's not part of the foundational aspect of where you're going. So the question is in the business versus on the business. What are you doing on the business? So things like communication, enabling your employees. Maybe it's just you or you're a solopreneur. Either way, you have to be able to enable and do the foundational aspects of business correctly. And AI businesses into that on the business aspect that was not previously there before for these businesses. So, or I would say more of cracks that were not on the there for these businesses. So maybe you're doing a little bit of it and it's just not great and it's not stellar, but you could do better. So I would double up. So the answer is that AI is going to come for you if you're not doing your fundamentals correctly.
yeah, I completely agree with you there. And I think it is really highlighting some other aspects, or the people who are winning have an advantage of relationships, judgment. They have their own methodology that is better than just anything that's off the shelf. One thing that I keep coming back to with AI is only as good as the context you give it. And so if you don't give it very good context because you're a layperson and you don't know all the issues at play, sometimes AI can spot issues for you, but if you don't tell it like, hey, this is important, we need to manage this risk, or we have to manage this type of relationship as we go forward. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that AI will get wrong, not because it's wrong inherently, just it didn't have as much information as it needed to give you the information to make a good decision. So having the information in a very having the information in a very relevant format is very, very important.
And I'll just say it like this. If I'm talking super practical here versus theoretical,
Mhm.
people are going to use like those bits and pieces of questions that they would have asked like a lawyer, like on the side, adding a little bit of billing here or there. You're going to see less of that because they're just going to put it into ChatGPT because they don't want to pay for that.
Yes.
They would rather pay a $20 a month subscription or a free service and have someone take their data, but they're asking ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Grok or Claude or whoever these questions. So I think you're going to probably see an erosion there, that some of those smaller questions that could turn into big things, which means that you probably need to turn over the rocks a little bit better on the front end, so your intake process. The other thing that I'm also seeing is that when there's kind of a psychological issue with the client, as in like not a like, hey, I can't think appropriately, but I'm needing to like work through stuff,
Yeah.
especially in off hours
Mm.
where everything lives between the ears. It's these off hours. I'm seeing an off tick in that, in the off hour stuff, because they're wanting to ask the lawyer stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree that there's all sorts of little questions here, there, and everywhere that you would reach out to your attorney. You might send them a text message, you might send them an email, you might put a phone call in, but you're not going to get an answer back for a long period of time. I'm recalling a survey that basically said that they surveyed a bunch of lawyers. It was Clio. Clio does these surveys with lawyers, and they said over 50% of the lawyers surveyed said that they would like less client interaction. And then they did a survey of law firm clients. Over 50% of them said they would like more attorney contact, that they would like more interaction with their attorney. And so this has been an ongoing issue in the legal industry, and I think that they're going to continually there's going to get there's going to be less questions to them, more questions to AI, and people are going to come in thinking, hey, this is what I need to do, this is what I want because AI told me, and it's not the case, and they need to now manage AI, so to speak, and go like, this is why this what you're saying is a bad idea, or have you
Yeah,
considered this? And
yeah, you almost have to ask for the chat history, right?
right, yeah, like you said, you get into all these privacy issues where, yeah, we've talked about case strategy, the case strategy, and now you've talked through it with ChatGPT, and now it's all discoverable. That's a big problem. So I not only do I think lawyers need a and any professional, they need standard operating procedures about how to use AI internally, but they really also need to talk through it with their clients and say, hey, don't talk to ChatGPT or whatever. Don't talk to AI about these things. These things are privileged right now. If you talk about them in whatever AI, you're going to give up the privilege right, and it'll be discoverable. And so they really need to help their clients understand the risks of going to AI. I think that actually will help them if they communicate that effectively. At least some clients, they don't listen to their advisors. They do their own thing, but I think some could actually avoid that. And then the other big thing is get the billable model. Just charge flat rate and keep the relationship a little bit more open and warm anyway, because if you're billing by the hour, hey, I am incentivized not to call you. I don't want to talk to you any more than I have to. And it makes this weird relationship with any kind of person who's an attorney or an accountant or whoever that's billing by the hour.
Yeah, I've actually heard you talk about this for the where like the billable hour. We'd like to have maybe the billable hour go away. The thing is, or at least in my mind, well, there's these complex matters. It's like, how do you know? It's like almost like I'm opening up like a car. I have this car that I need restored, and it shows up. And let's say, for instance, it's got a really nice coat of paint on it, but it's a lemon. It's an
Mm.
absolute lemon of a car. How are you supposed to charge a flat fee if you can only look at the paint on the outside of the car as it rolls up? Like, it's really hard to say it's going to be X amount because that lemon could be a whole host of other things. And so I don't think the billable model for a lot of different services is going away. I do agree that there is a place for both of them, or at least for flat fee. And I think for like your normal, I'm going to talk about cars. You know, I enjoy them, but when I'm thinking of like flat fee, I'm thinking of like your typical service. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to go and rebuild an engine. I'm like, hey, we're changing our tires out. That kind of stuff is a flat fee. But like if I'm having to rebuild an engine, or maybe it's something that's like really complex, I have to go down and I have to pull things apart. I have to look to them. Maybe I have to fabricate something, or in the legal industry, like I'd have to come up with some very specific language
Mm-hmm.
unique to a situation. Like that's gonna be outside the realm of flat fee. You're not gonna really be able to account for that very
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
especially if you're like, I'm only seeing the paint on the outside of the car, but it's a total lemon. So like I do think there's a place for billable hours, but I do agree with the customer standpoint.
You bring up a good point, and we're never going to get away from the billable hour to a certain extent. But what I have seen done, it's like a hybrid model. A simple divorce is this much flat fee. Okay. Now, if it gets a little bit more contested, then this phase is going to be this much. This phase of the litigation is going to be this much. If we have to do depositions, a deposition is this much each day, and so it's kind of flat rate. But then there's other things like if we go to trial, it's going to be hourly, and so then it shifts from okay, so we didn't get it settled, and things are not nicely scoped out, and we don't really know how long this trial is going to go on. So we're going to just bill hourly for that portion. I've seen that. I think that's a decent strategy to give people a better understanding of how much it's going to cost, what it's going to take, but still, like you said, sometimes things get really, really messy and you don't know until you're very much in them. It can be tricky for sure, but the hourly billable model is ethically gray at best because as a service provider am incentivized to have this thing drag on as long as I can. And so the longer I can keep it going, the more money I get. And it's actually a lot more valuable to the client if you can get it done quickly. You get it done the right way the first time and you don't have to have it drag on. So our moat lesson I wanted to leave you with is when your profession sees that an existential threat like this, when more than half the people are saying this is a threat, it's not noise anymore. This is actually a real threat. I would say it was a threat 2 years ago, but people are finally waking up now. I don't think AI is going anywhere, but I don't think that AI can replace you. You need to think about the things that are irreplaceable. Luckily, attorneys still have to go to court. There's no AI going to court. No agents can't do that yet. But you got to help the client understand the value of clear judgment that you bring, the expertise, the relationship that you have with the client. It goes way beyond, just providing service, but actually building a relationship with them.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about Bain bets big on OpenAI. So Bain announced more than 3 years of joint work with OpenAI in May of 2026 and made an investment in OpenAI's development company.
So basically, AI tech enabled work
Yes,
is what that, or like a co-work almost,
yes.
is what is my understanding from Bain. They're putting that investment not only into saying, hey, let's have a contract so I can use your models, but also let's have kind of like a co-work. And then also while we're at it, like here's an investment so we can make this better,
Right.
which is very interesting.
Yeah, and it's making up 30% of Bain's consulting business. And they're projecting that it's going to go up to about 50%. And then Boston Consulting Group has shown revenue raises from in 2024 it was about 20% and now it's doubled to about 40% in 2026.
It's interesting because it's like, okay, well, I'm going to consult you in the ways that we do with my company and yours. And consulting is one of those interesting things where it requires a relationship. But it also requires the fact that you know what you're doing, you know where you're headed. The problem is that some of the junior consultants that are coming in using AI, it's like, did you even have a thought? No. But the reality is before AI, most of the junior consultants didn't really have a thought either. They were still learning. So there's this absorption phase. So what I would say is that from a consulting standpoint, it comes back to there's a couple things that people need to understand from these consulting groups. They have their own intellectual property. The problem is keeping that intellectual property and being able to use that intellectual property with how they're consulting. Because if I'm going to Boston Consulting Group or Bain, I'm going to expect a different answer. But if I'm getting the exact same proposal and the exact same answer, I'm probably going to go with a different one because I know everyone else is using AI. So it's like, okay, I'm seeing the cost. I'm seeing the cost. Like literally, there was a post I saw. It was like they compared like four different proposals. Only one was different, and three of them were basically AI. They asked AI,
Mm.
it's like, hey, where's this information coming from? And it priced it out, but it wasn't actually their pricing. It was AI pricing out the consulting. So you mentioned context, but the thing is that it's also the data it's trained on. So, or the data it's able to find and pull from. So there's like
Right.
three directions that it's actually coming from: the information you give it, the information it's trained on, and the information that's out there that it can actually go and find and pull. So as everyone's starting to lock things down, you're going to see these prices and the AI shift because it can't go and find the information anymore because people are locking that down. So then what is it actually going to find? It's going to find past and prior data and your information. And with using past and prior data, a lot of the stuff from Bain and Boston Consulting Group is going to get outpriced. And we're actually going to, and one of the things that it's going to be interesting to see, and this is good news for the customer, is that the prices will start to get lower and lower and lower from these consulting groups, and they will have no idea why they're going lower.
Mm.
And they'll start to say, "Hey, you need to push up the price a little bit for our proprietary stuff, which is just a Chat GPT connection, like like you just said that they paid."
Mhm.
So it's really about the context you're giving it, and on what type of model that you're using. So they're going to try to update these models, and they're starving for data right now, is what I'm told. And what I'm also finding is they're starving for data. So where are they going to find the data? All the gullible people putting their information in there regarding pricing. And so it's going to take some mom and pop consulting shop and run it up the chain all the way to Bain. So, which is why it's very important to lock down your intellectual property now. But my point is that if they're all using AI, does it really make sense, to go with any of them?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, that there's no longer a competitive advantage, or really at that point, it's just like, well, who's going to charge me the least amount? I mean, it just all becomes commoditized. It's like, well, I'm going to get the same thing regardless if I go these guys or those guys. I would say the other aspect of that is if you can clearly communicate and differentiate yourself, like, hey, we have these different models that are closed, that are not accessible, that are trained on this data, and it's proprietary. It's not something that anybody can get access to. That's really, really valuable. So more people are going to move towards that. As I read this, the customer needs to understand what they're getting. And so if they're not getting anything special, like, you can trick them for a while, but sooner or later, like, people are going to say, people are going to do the research. It sounds like some people already
Yeah.
have done the research and got multiple proposals, and they're all basically the same.
There was a interesting video. I watched this like 2 years ago, and it was a prior consultant, and they asked him, they said, well, how do you come up with the pricing? It's like, okay, well, it was not a straight answer. And it was like, well, and it started asking questions.
Mm.
And then they asked the question, it's like, well, are you doing are you like, how's your reputation? Okay, well, if I wanted a refresh and rebrand on that, and then now since we're doing a refresh and rebrand, we're going to come up with all these other things. And basically, like, it's a teaming approach. They're looking at it from a larger overall approach, like that everything's broken. Not
Hmm.
just this one little thing, not right sizing it. It's more of like everything's broken. And if I have to fix one or two or three things, it's probably all broken. So we're just going to redo it. So it's like, I'm going to redo this. And because I need this, I need to do that and that. So it's like, instead of something being like, 10 or $15,000, it turns into $250,000 very quickly. Or it's like, okay, well, we have this massive thing that we want to do. We're going to put bids on it. It's probably going to cost, I don't know, $300,000. Well, that bid turns into, this is going to be about $2.5 million.
Mm.
And they're like, how? And so the smoke and mirrors is very much of like, it's not just the systems approach, but it's also just widening the net to an extent that doesn't need to be widened, just so they're able to make more money, and just having more teams get on more things to get the billable hours up.
Right.
you know I do think there's a place where a lot of this stuff makes sense, but we're going to have 40 to 50% of it being AI. It's like, well, how are you going to justify that with your billable hours? I need my result. Like, okay, yeah, you can charge me $2.5 million, but am I getting 5 million back? Am I doubling my money? Am
Right.
I getting my return? These are the questions that, like we said in our prior shows, that the customers are asking questions on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what really stands out to me here is, these big firms, they're able to partner up with these big AI companies. They're able to have equity positions, and they're really taking what was a threat and shifting it into something that's they can make money off of. They're shifting it into a new revenue source, a new investment, a new enablement. The smaller consulting firms, a lot of them may not be able to invest in OpenAI, but you still can build genuine AI capability within your company still. You can build a private AI system that actually contains your intellectual property, your data and research, and create something valuable that not everybody has access to. So it's important to think about what you can or cannot do, and how you need to adapt with AI changing the way service is delivered.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sam, we are at time.
All right. But if you liked and enjoyed this, please hit that like button, share it with a friend. Whether it's something AI related or business that really got you going, leave a comment down on it. We would love to hear from you. You can always reach out to us. There'll be a link in the chat to book
Hmm.
time with us if you really want to talk through your business issue. We're more than happy to do that. Either way, you're probably not subscribed, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button since we're talking about it. But until then, keep building that moat, build a business that others cannot copy, take, or kill. And until then, keep building it.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.